Welcome to the Liberation Lab podcast, insights and interviews for the disruptive educator. I am honored to be before you on a solo episode this week, and I'm going to make no bones about it. This week, I'm a little ticked off. This week, I am a bit irritated, appalled, and I hope that for women who are listening, I hope that you have heard from more men than myself on this topic. So let me be clear right from the onset what I mean. Um, Men, we have a problem. We have an issue that has spanned generations, decades, families, lineages that have destroyed entire civilizations. We have an issue with misogyny. We have an issue with this disease called misogyny, with this disease called patriarchy. We have an issue that demands our attention. If you've been hiding under a rock and don't know, we have seen that gruesome, inexcusable video of Diddy and Cassie. And when the video came out, the thing that was most grotesque to me was the fact that people had to see this video in order to then turn around and say, well, why does she stay so long? Like, this continual victim blaming is disgusting. We see a woman being dragged and kicked, and our first reaction is to question her and never interrogate the abuser, never to say something with regard to Diddy's actions. Yeah, I'm pretty ticked. And part of the reason why, right? So yes, this is something that's happening in pop culture and in the news and in the media. So Bobby, why are you talking about it when you talk to schools? Because newsflash, there are potentially future Diddies in your classroom. And our ability or inability to address this disease, to address and unlearn practices that condone these types of behaviors, the ability or inability of school leaders to set up systems that directly affect how our babies are leaving with their forming their understandings of themselves and their world, challenging notions of toxic masculinity and patriarchy. That's needed more now than ever. Even more, right? As I sit here and think through this. So let me just parenthetically insert. I'm not standing here or sitting here recording this, talking about this because I'm some bastion of hope. I'm here because I'm a man in the process of unlearning the tangled web that misogyny and patriarchy has played in my life, healing from the ways that I've harmed others because of these understandings and the things that I refused for a while to deal with in myself. So I don't speak as someone who's got it together, but I speak because I feel like more of us should be speaking. So I want to play for us a clip of Diddy apologizing. And I I just want you to hear it for yourself. This is why women choose the bear. For context, if you haven't been following, there was a trend on TikTok where women were recounting stories of men and their behaviors, the refusal to accept no, the rejecting the advances, and they were asked, would you choose a man or choose a bear? And women across the board were saying, I would rather choose the bear. So much so that people started posting pictures. A bear is on the doorstep of a house, and a woman comes out and says, no, get away, move, and the bear leaves. They cut to another clip of a man following a woman, and she says, no, I don't want to talk to you. Please leave me alone. And what does he do? He continues to bother, berate, and hound this woman because she's rejecting his advances. Men, we have a problem. It's disgusting, and it's vile, and it starts in our schools. So Diddy sits up and he says, man, I sought professional help and therapy. And he, like a lot of us, appears as though, like, I don't know what's in that man's heart, but it appears as though he is sorry that he got caught. When you do the things that he has done, when you are now in a RICO case because of human trafficking, and that is your response, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm sorry. I would have better off you just kept it to yourself. And I know it sounds harsh, right? Like, I know what it's like to be on the other end, and to be the person who's asking for forgiveness for things, and you got a lot of work to do. But here we are looking at this video, this man, and then the subsequent follow-up apology after making sure you settle out of court so all the details don't come out. And you tell me you've been to therapy and you had to seek professional help. And in one sense, yeah, I'm happy that, if that's true, that you are trying to do what you got to do to be a better human. But in another sense, it's like, man, throw him under the jail. But this mentality starts in our schools. And so I want to challenge us a little bit, because when it comes to our responses, men, I'm talking specifically to men, one of the things that we like to do is to say, well, it's not all men. I'm sorry, we don't have that excuse anymore, if there ever was one. In the same way that in gun safety classes, they teach you to treat every weapon like it's loaded. So you must handle it with the understanding that it can harm you. When you clean, touch, or even hold the weapon, you understand that it has the potential for harm at any moment. Men, we're the weapon. Our understandings of masculinity, all of those things lend themselves to, we don't have a view for ourselves outside of power and control, domination and exploitation. We view ourselves by conquest and say that we should be leading. We should be, we're leaders, providers. And honestly, I just don't know if anything could be further from the truth, from what we have shown, right? From the sample size of what we have shown thus far. So I want to ask, are we going to be brave enough in our schools to reject, first of all, to understand that this ideology runs rampant in our schools, from the way that our young boys are willing to fight young girls? They don't see a difference there. They don't see themselves as protectors at all. They're willing to put their hands on young ladies because they'll say, and I've heard our baby say this, well, if she wants to step to me like a man, I'm a fighter like one. I saw a video of a gentleman by the name, I think his name is Jason Williams. He runs the cave of Abdullam, and he is a martial arts instructor, and he's talking to a young man. This young man, maybe 8 or 9, is frustrated because he's tired and can't do the exercise, can't really function up to his capabilities. And you see him get frustrated, step off the mat that he is on, and start crying. The instructor addresses him. Tell me what's going on. The young man has difficulty expressing himself. But what I love about the video is that this instructor, this man named Jason, does not allow him off the hook. He says, no, tell me what's going on. The young man says, I'm struggling because my legs aren't working the way I want them to. I'm frustrated because I'm not performing up to my capabilities, and I'm mad. Well, the first thing that the instructor does is name that it's powerful, right? That this young man is naming his emotion. And 2, he rejects the notion that crying is for somebody who's soft. He says, men who don't learn, young men, boys who don't learn to cry and to process their emotions, become men who cry in other ways. They lash out. They don't know how to process things. Or to put it another way, Frederick Douglass was coined as saying that it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And I'm suggesting to us that our schools, without our intervention, will be the ground zero for the continual production of broken men if we choose to do nothing about what we are seeing. We need to create spaces of healing. As I started jotting down notes and thinking about what it is that what practically we could do, And this isn't an exhaustive list at all, but we definitely need therapy. We need humility and we need curiosity if we're going to make any type of real change. And before I get into that, I want to play one more video for you. And this has gone viral. We've had a bunch of discussions online and whatnot about it, but it's the video of Harrison Bucker, the kicker from the Kansas City Chiefs. And to set the stage for what he's about to say, I need you to hear that the context of this is that he has gone to a commencement speech. Everyone in this room is celebrating the accomplishment, which is hard and harder for some, harder for marginalized people groups, harder for women to graduate, to get this degree, to open up opportunities for oneself. And in the midst of this celebration, I need you to hear what this fool says. I don't have words to quantify the amount of ignorance in that video, but allow me to say a couple of things. First, whoever, I don't know if the institution knew he was going to say what he was going to say, but my God, to trample on the accomplishments of women who have traversed a society that is dead set on limiting their accomplishments, limiting where they can go, what rooms they belong in, where their voice belongs, and you stand up and say, "No, not your degrees, the greatest honor." And hear me, if a woman chooses to step into the job of homemaker, and that's what they choose to do, more power to them. But it's their choice. It isn't ours as men to dictate what it is that women should be doing, to demand their continual free labor for our exploitation. But there are Harrison Buckers at your school who, for whatever reason, will have an ideology of second class citizenship of women. And if we choose not to build true community where we make the problem of others our personal problem, I say this all the time, community happens when I make your problem my problem. If we choose not to engage at that level, we are choosing to be the mass production site of future Diddy's and Harrison Buckers, and the list goes on. So when we're talking about what to do, we need to really think about our need for therapy. And when I say therapy, I mean therapeutic environments. I mean coming face to face with who we are and what we've done. And I mean this for every single child, but specifically in this point, I'm talking about our young men. We have continued to use power and privilege to dominate and destroy, and not to heal. That when it comes to healing, we lash out at those types of things by dismissing them. And you hear this if you just listen to our young people and listen to men. They dismiss these things as feminine or gay because we don't understand how to define manhood except to say that it is anti-woman. We don't understand how to define manhood except by addressing and using slurs about the homosexual community. And here's the rub for us, that just maybe there's more that we can learn from groups who have had to heal from the marginalization that they've experienced in our world. Just maybe I can learn more about healing from somebody who's had to endure punishment. Just maybe I can learn a lot about healing from someone who's had to navigate a system dead set on marginalization, domination, and control. And they've navigated that system and somehow come out on the other side seemingly unscathed. Maybe I should lean in and listen to that person about what it means to heal. But no, not us. We label it, because what you can label, you ostracize, and what you ostracize, you don't have to listen to. So we escape responsibility for healing by continuing to name these things as anti-man, effeminate, or using slurs derived from how we quantify the homosexual community. Man, we probably should take a page from their book, from our women, from folks who have marginalized backgrounds, minoritized backgrounds, and start our healing process to get real and get help. So what does this mean for us in school? If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I am a proponent of, a practitioner of restorative practices. And the thing that I think happens for us is we think restorative practices are only there to be the band-aid when we have a boo-boo, but that's not how this works. The prerequisite for restorative practices is, are we willing? Have we done the work of building an actual community? Community building circles are ground zero. So we could talk about effective language, and we could talk about all the tools necessary to build a culture that esteems one another. But listen, the best tools in the hands of racist professionals, the best tools in the hands of bigoted professionals, the best tools in the hands of misogynistic professionals become weapons of mass destruction. So we must build true community where we close the gap between teacher and student, between student and student. We need proximity. We need to understand one another. I need to be able to look at our young ladies as they begin to expound upon the ways that maybe they've had to navigate the responsibilities placed on them, because maybe they would corroborate the narrative that men are supported and engaged and sometimes enabled, but young women are raised. In other words, they have responsibility placed on young girls because of their capabilities, because of their leadership capabilities, but we enable and baby young men who turn into boys who can shave. So we need to engage in building therapeutic environments where we could begin to challenge these notions and subsequently put our young people in a space where they can heal. So the first thing we definitely need is therapy. But next, we have to engage around humility. In the words of the prophet Kendrick Lamar, sit down, be humble. Humility is going to be essential if we're truly going to see ourselves and see one another, to see the damage that we've caused, to not look away, to not minimize, to want to not to put ourselves on a video and say, I'm trying to be a better man after you've wreaked d- havoc and destruction for years and profited off of people. It is humility that helps us recognize that we need community in order to advance collective liberation, that our liberation is bound together, that who you are and what you need and how what will set you free is inevitably tied to what will set me free. That we center those on the margins. But how do you see the margins if you're not humble enough to look? Humility helps us admit when we're wrong and learn from those mistakes, not after the video comes out of you destroying, mercilessly beating and kicking a young girl in the hallway, a person you said that you love. No, humility helps us admit when we say something that might be off, when we call a young girl out of her name, when we call other young men out of their name because they act different than us, because their sexual orientation might be different than us. Humility helps us foster better understanding of others and promotes healthier relationships, because I don't come to it with an understanding that I'm going to be right because I have all the power. I come to it understanding that there's much to learn about myself and others, and to truly see myself, I need others in my life. I need others who are going to speak truth. Humility helps me listen and glean from that truth. But here's a part for me that's kind of frustrating, and it's something that we really need to cultivate, and that is curiosity. This is my last point here. When women are telling us that they'd rather choose the bear, listen, I have let me let me just give a disclaimer. At times like these where I get frustrated, I curse, and forgive me if that's not where you are. Permit me some grace here. But when women are telling us they need that they'll choose the bear, and we have men who are saying, "Be serious, you wouldn't choose the bear." I I mean this with all the love in my heart. Shut the fuck up. Like listen, get curious. What is it revealing about manhood that listen, I am the father of a 9-year-old beautiful young lady. She is smart. She lights up every room she goes in. She is a leader. She is compassionate. And as a father, I am scared to send her on her own out into the world when it comes time. Because we say men are there to protect, but protect from what? From who? If you're honest with yourself, you have to admit that it is to protect young girls, to protect our women from other men. We are the problem. So we got to get curious. When we have conversations that kind of rattle us a little bit, make us become defensive, why? Why am I becoming defensive? What toxic traits do I have that contribute to what it is that I'm seeing around me that's being named or exposed? It is curiosity that allows us to seek true knowledge, to lean in and to listen, to be uncomfortable, and to understand that discomfort is the prerequisite for growth. It is curiosity that shows us that we have work to do. Staying curious helps us with the requisite strength, power, and determination needed to understand how tangled webs get woven into our lives and where the root causes for our behavior might be. And since we're here, let me be real. I'm continuing to recover present day from misogyny, continuing to heal from toxic masculinity to the point where through therapy, so if you haven't gotten a therapist, please do so. I recognize even in my own life that people pleasing and these other behaviors come from a deficiency that I've had in my life where I have sought to perform for other people's approval. And sometimes that approval becomes other folks, advice from others, where now I am falling prey to and participating in and now becoming an active participator in the destruction of women, of others, because I have now veered into womanizing and all of the disgusting behavior that I've had in my past. Why am I saying this? Because God, I wish a man would have pulled me to the side and say, young man, this is what it means to be a man. And it's okay to cry. And it's okay that you're a sensitive young boy. There's nothing wrong with that. It's what you do with that and how that empowers you to move forward and how you have capacity for others. I wish a older man would have affirmed me. I wish that more teachers saw that my anger were really just tears that I refused to cry. And that's not me placing any type of blame on anybody else. I'm responsible for that. But God, I wish that somebody got curious about what it is that I was bringing into the classroom with me. My invisible backpack. Why I felt the need to perform. Why I was masking the hurt and the pain in my life that now I'm dealing with as a dag near 40-year-old man. Things that I should have learned a long time ago. I'm glad the story is still being written, and I'm glad I'm in a place to continue to learn and grow and to even put this stuff out here into the world so hopefully somebody else can grow. But man, we need to get curious. We need to be humble. And man, we need therapeutic healing environments. Shout out to Dr. Angela Costa. Shout out to Dr. Yolanda Silly Ruiz. So what do? If you're a school leader, we're coming up to the end of the school year. Some of you have a week. If you're somewhere near me, you probably have another month. May the odds forever be in your favor. What are we going to do differently to put our kids in an environment, our babies in an environment where we're challenging this ideology, where we're putting them in a position to understand what's acceptable and what's not? That if our laughter, our joking is at the expense of a human, then we are not just unkind, but we are participating in an ideology that leads to destructive decisions. Are we going to have honest conversations about that? How we've enabled that? As leaders, are we going to reflect on the ways that we have enabled that behavior by our silence? My hope is that we grow frustrated enough to do something different. As I sit here, potentially on the heels of maybe walking into a principal's position, I'm reflecting on the ways that our young people need more than reading, writing, and arithmetic to be whole, healthy humans. And is that all on the school? No, but I'll be damned if I don't try to give them everything that they need, because they deserve it. So community, listen, let's stay humble, let's stay curious, and let's really seek therapy for ourselves and for each other. Share this with somebody else. Please like, comment, subscribe, Every review helps with the reach of this podcast, reach of this platform. And until next time, I love y'all. Let's keep pushing.